Hello ladies, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Aisha. I'm a certified trauma-informed coach and manifestation guide, and I am on a mission to help 1 million women become their most confident and successful selves through the use of law of assumption manifestation. And today's lesson is very valuable, very important. I was actually on a walk enjoying the nature, although the sun is playing peekaboo. But it was just so strong in my mind that I decided to pause and make this video really quick. And I think also it's been really relevant to me in terms of like I'm realizing just how valid and real this analogy is, and like the principle of it, and how this is really how we're creating our realities. So also, if my phone falls down at any time, you are jammed between two pieces of wood on a picnic table. So that's the only thing holding my phone up right now, so I can be hands-free for this video. But basically, before I get into like the analogy and like highlighting the metaphor that I want to teach you today, I really want you to start practicing self-reflection. So when negative, unsavory, unfavorable, undesirable circumstances come about, I want you to practice looking back and thinking about the moments, the days, the hours, the minutes before that happened. Where were your thoughts? Honestly, what were you thinking of? What fears were holding on to you? What limiting beliefs were you like playing out, like living out? What version of yourself were you acting as? And how were you showing up in the world? How were you, like, what were your inner conversations like? There goes the phone. What was your dialogue like within yourself? What kind of thoughts were you thinking on repeat? And the reason this is so important is 100% of the time, in my experience, and I know a lot of other manifestation coaches, teachers out here will tell you exactly the same thing. Leading up to those negative circumstances, my brain was in the gutter. Like, my thoughts were not positive, not optimistic, not hopeful. They were fearful, they were doubtful, they were not secure, they were challenging, they were stuck on negative stories, stuck on the negative viewpoint. And then when the negative circumstances happen, it's like, okay, well, I'm not surprised. I can't be surprised because that's where my brain was at. And whether it is a big, like a very highly impactful 3D experience, or whether it's something like small, I guarantee you can go back and reflect, and you will see the thoughts that led up to that, and you will see the version of you that you were being that led up to that ultimately it's because your thoughts and your state of being is what creates. So if I spend my time really anxious, really fearful, really doubting, like hopeless, in despair, focusing on all the negative, ruminating and all the things that I didn't want to happen, only more of that can come to me. Only more of those experiences can be manifested in my reality. And it's the universal truth. Like, this is law of assumption at its core, is when you are so focused, for example, okay, like if you are starting to feel like you don't like your job, but there's only one small reason you don't like your job, right? Maybe you really like the schedule at first, and then now the schedule's not working for you. Maybe that's the first thing you notice. And so like every day you're like still focused on, oh my gosh, this schedule. And then what will happen is your brain will be so stuck in that negative, it'll find a second reason for you to not like that job. It'll start creating a second circumstance to push you, because basically what you're saying to yourself is, I'm unhappy, I'm unsatisfied, I don't like this. And so in order to force you into change, to really like motivate you into change, to push you into change, your subconscious will create more and more reasons, more and more of that negativity, more reasons to dislike that job, until you're out of it, until you're no longer able to tolerate being in that job anymore, because now you don't have 1 or 2 reasons, now you have 10 reasons, now you have 1,000,000 reasons why you can't be there, you can't stand it, you're not happy. And your inner being, like the core of who you are, wants you to be happy. They want you to feel satisfied. They want you to feel good. And so it will automatically look for more reasons to dislike that thing. And if you want to look at it from a scientific perspective, whereas our happiness is not what our biology is optimized for, okay, like our nervous system, our fear responses, our subconscious, the way it functions, our habits, patterns, beliefs, they're all wired and optimized for survival. So the number one thing, like, it doesn't matter if we're happy if we're dead, right? We can't be happy if we're not alive. And so its one purpose is to keep you alive, to keep you going. And so if you are creating within your mind, consciously thinking that this circumstance is a threat to you in some way, that it is challenging to you, it's harming you, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel safe, it doesn't feel happy, your automatic subconscious response will be to drive that stressor out of your life so you can come back to safety. And it does this in a multitude of ways. Of course, it'll use your nervous system, so you'll be more likely to be triggered. You'll be more likely to get worked up over small things. The little ways that your coworkers or boss maybe were kind of not satisfactory to deal with will turn into big ways. And part of this is the reticular activating system in your brain. Its one job is to show you more of what you tell it is important. This is good and this is bad. Okay, so the primary function of it, years and years and years ago, when we were cave dwellers, we lived in trees, we lived in the outdoors, we didn't have housing, internal plumbing, and electricity, and all the modern luxuries that we have, our survival was more threatened on a constant basis. And so the reticular activating system's job was to go, I know that smell. That smells like this predator. I know that sounds like this predator. Or when it came, like, that's in a negative light. Or when it came to a food source, we would remember, like, my dad is someone who, like, he can look at any tree and he's like, that's that kind of tree and that's that kind of tree and here's this plant and here's this plant. Like, he's really good at that. And that's because his reticular activating system has been trained to look at certain trees to notify his survival of, like, okay, these trees are good and these trees are poisonous, or like this bush is good, this bush is poisonous. And essentially the reason he has that is because way back when we needed to know what poison ivy looked like, what poison oak looked like, what poison sumac looked like, to avoid it. And we also needed to know, like, what berries and plants and herbs were safe to eat, and if they weren't safe to eat, maybe they had a medicinal property. And, like, being able to, like, look at count the different points on the leaves and remember the shades of green, and remember, like, the difference between, like, I know there's, like, two kinds of flowers. There's, like, Queen Anne's lace, and I forget the other one, and one is, like, edible and the other one is poisonous. And, like, from an untrained eye, they look the same or, like, very similar, but our survival function is built to allow us to remember these small details so we can point at them and go, ha, I know what that is, like, in our environment. And that is so closely tied to our survival that we still have that. And it doesn't just work for trees and plants and berries, it works for everything in our life. And most importantly, I would say, it works for body language. It works for tone. It works for different vernacular or slang terminology. It works for how we read another human being, because obviously as a tribal species, as community species, and when I say tribal, I mean, like, we naturally group together. Like, our family is our primary tribe, and then from our family we have our extended family, we have other people who would have been in our village. Like, we've always lived in community. So it's very important when you live and interact with other human beings, and other human beings you are often dependent on them for your survival. Especially as a child, you are 100% dependent on other human beings for your survival. You pick up these cues. And so in your whole world, if you want to look at this from a more scientific perspective rather than a more spiritual perspective, your brain, your biology, you are hardwired, your computer hardware, the pieces that actually physically make up your hardware, those are not changeable. Those are the primary functions of being a human species. And the purpose that they serve is to keep you alive, to keep you functioning. So if you find yourself stuck on a negative, and that negative gets to a certain point where you have built it up in your subconscious through your conscious thinking, okay, because the subconscious is controlled first by the conscious. The conscious has to think a thought and form a belief that then gets downloaded into the subconscious. It gets programmed into the subconscious. So you're born a clean slate. You know nothing, you are nothing, there's no detachment from you and your primary caretakers. You are this raw piece of clay that gets molded throughout your lifetime. So even though you are maybe not aware of how your subconscious can function, it all started with something conscious. You notice something in your environment, then you communicate that to your subconscious, and your subconscious locks it in. It turns it to stone, and it says, this is what it is for now. That doesn't mean you can't change your subconscious. It just means it is hardened. It is not a clay material. If your consciousness is like clay, your subconscious is like stone, baked clay. It's set, it's hardened. Yes, you can grind down that pottery, like if you were to fire some ceramic, you can grind it down back into dust and recycle it, but that's a whole process. It takes time to rewire, to revise those subconscious beliefs because it's not as malleable. So now that we understand that, now that we are conscious of the role that our subconscious is playing, now that we understand how once we focus on something negative, it builds and it builds and it builds and it grows, and your subconscious will then create more evidence, more reasons for you to believe this, because you're essentially turning more clay into stone, clay into stone, clay into stone over time. Now I will share with you this analogy. How far do you think you can get driving a car when you are only looking at the rear windshield? The rear mirror on the windshield. How far can you get without an accident? How far can you get without running somebody over? How far can you get without crashing into a pole? How far could you drive, honestly, if all you were looking at is the little mirror that shows what's behind you? Not very far. Even if you're a professional driver, even if you're the best driver in the world, even if you're a stunt driver, you're not going to get very far if all you are viewing is what is in the past. And the reason that this analogy ties to our subconscious and everything in the way that we manifest, if you are only looking to your past, you are not molding the clay of the present moment. You're not going to get anything different than you have gotten in the past. You're not going to see anything different because you're only seeing what's in that little mirror. If you're only seeing what's in the past, if you're only focusing on what's in the past, you can only solidify clay into stone, making more of the same from the past, if that makes sense to you. So when you have these negative circumstances come about, reflect and notice how much of your time, was it 5% of your time you were looking in the rearview mirror? Or was it 95% of the time you were looking in the rearview mirror? And then look at how that shaped your future. Look at how, by focusing on the past in the present moment, you only got more of the past. You only got more of that same old negative story. You only got more of, I hate this job, I hate this circumstance, I'm unhappy in my relationship, I'm unhealthy. You only got more of that same because that's all that you were allowing yourself to focus on. So again, if you think about the conscious brain is clay, it's raw, it's moldable, it's soft. You can form it and shape it to however you need to. You can manipulate that material, and then at some point the clay of the now moment sinks into your subconscious. In other words, it hardens into that ceramic stone that we know is firm and cannot be molded anymore. It's set in its place. Using all of your clay of the now moment, focusing on that rear view mirror, focusing on the past and what you've always had, you cannot shape your clay into anything new. You're not creating new experiences. You're not creating better experiences. You're not looking for better evidence, and you're not creating better evidence for yourself, because that's the thing. You can change how you feel about the present moment just by how you narrate the present experience. So instead of showing up to that job and going, man, I really hate this schedule, if you show up to that job and go, I bet you there's a solution for this, and until that solution comes about, I'm going to be happy here. I'm going to be grateful that this job is paying my bills. I'm going to be grateful that my skills are being valued. I'm going to be grateful that I live in a country where I have this opportunity available to me. I'm going to be grateful that I can afford the place that I live. I'm going to be grateful that I get to eat the foods that I eat. As soon as you switch from that one negative, right, the one thing that you start to dislike, and come back to the positive, now when you revisit that problem, okay, because it's still a problem. I'm not saying that by ignoring your dissatisfaction, it's going to go away. But when you face that dissatisfaction, you want to face it from a place of power, from a place where you recognize you can change it, from a place where that problem has a solution, and that solution is available to you, and it's easy for you, and it's basically a non-issue. It's much better to face the circumstances in that empowered state, in that conscious present state, looking at the full windshield. A bunch of birds flying over me. Looking at that full windshield and seeing all the possibilities, rather than your possibilities being limited to the rear view mirror. We create more negative circumstances when we are focused on the negative circumstances that we are already experiencing, or we are perceiving ourselves to experience here in the now moment. So if you are tired of getting what you've always gotten, you have to stop focusing on the rear view mirror and start driving using the windshield that's in front of you. Because you have this whole windshield. You have your side windshield, your side glass, your door, driver's side and passenger side glass. And if you need it, the rear view mirror is a tool. If you need it, your side mirrors are a tool to help you navigate better. They are not where your primary focus should be. So use your past and the things you don't like as contrast. Contrast just means black, white, hate, love, want less of, want more of. So that rear view mirror is only there for you to look at it and go, okay, what did I like about what I already experienced? And what did I not like? Okay, if I know I don't like these things, how can I make sure I'm investing my time in the things that I do like, in the things that I do want to experience? How can I make more time? Okay, how can I move my schedule around to incorporate more of the things I want to experience? How can I change my internal world so that I can go through life experiencing life from a better state, from a better being, with a better attitude, from a better narrative, from a better perspective? And that's manifestation. It's a little bit spiritual, okay? We can definitely get into the spiritual side of it. We can talk about the quantum physics, the double slit experiment, and string theory, and all of that. We can talk about how somehow for millennia, since the dawn of humankind, we all of us who have some type of faith believe that there is this higher beingness, higher power that is moving through us. You can look at all the different texts from all the different cultures and compare them, and we're basically all saying the same thing. Anyone who's very well educated and is a true scholar of their religion or their spiritual beliefs, they all ultimately are saying the same thing, because we're all experiencing the same thing here on this planet. Spiritual beings having a human experience. We can get into that, but if that doesn't resonate with you, the science backs it up. The understanding of your conscious awareness and the intention that you put into it, the energy that is behind your actions, that's all backed by science, psychology and behavioral sciences, and just motivation and neuroscience and neurobiology, like all of these things, like everything backs this up. So whether you can see the spiritual side or not, understand that by focusing on all the things you don't want, you can only create more of what you don't want. Whereas by focusing on what you do want, what story do you want to tell? What life do you want to live? And who do you want to be in this life? Like, who do you want to show up in the world as today and every day? And how good can you be at choosing that new story? Even when, like, what's in your rear view mirror is a dumpster fire, right? Even when what you're leaving behind, what you're driving away from, is painful and scary, and it was hard for you, and the action of driving away and moving away from it, or letting go of the past, feels challenging, feels scary. How committed are you to your future? How committed are you to fulfilling your promises to yourself? How committed are you to your own success? That's all you have to focus on, and prove it to yourself every day. You wake up and you choose the new story. I intend that this video was helpful. I intend that this analogy, these analogies that I used, and the metaphors that I use are really helping you grasp the concept of manifestation and understand the way law of assumption is working for you, and understand the way that you're wired is for your benefit, that your subconscious is it's a feature, not a bug. The way that your reticular activating system is built can be leveraged, and that you have the power to do this, that you have absolute control over your life, even when it doesn't feel like it. You have control over your inner experience, and that is everything. If you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and tap the button and hit the bell icon to be notified. I also have my new premium Confidence Club premium channel membership, where I will be doing exclusive videos, exclusive lives, exclusive lessons and shorts, to really help you solidify. I'm going to at the end of this month, October, be putting more energy into the premium subscription, and putting more longer videos that are more in depth, that are really detailed, that are there. It's more for the people who have done this before, the people who've been manifesting for a year or longer, the people who are ready to take it to the next level, the people who are, the women who are they want to have it all. They want to have the success in business. They want to have the success in relationship. They want to have the success in health. They're not willing to settle. They don't want to tolerate any less than they know they deserve, and they're ready to level up. So that is what Confidence Club Premium is all about, is getting to that next level you, becoming that version of yourself that has everything that she desires and is unapologetic about that. So I'm really excited for that membership. I'm really excited for the direction everything is going. And also, on a final note, we do have our Channelversary live video later this month, and I'm really excited. It's going to be on October 29th, because that is the anniversary of my channel. So I'm really excited for that, and I look forward to seeing all of you there, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!